brag about the Santa Fe, the New York Central B&O. Those are the coasts of Ohio. Kentucky's got the L&M, and Pennsylvania's got the Penn. In Michigan it's a Fair Market, but there's a grander railroad yet. Oh, up and down the Monon, everything is fine, 'cause that rootin' tootin' Monon, she's a Hoosier line. Oh, up and down the Monon, everything is fine, 'cause that rootin' tootin' Monon, she's a Hoosier line. All aboard, all aboard, it's my Indiana home that I'm a-headin' toward. Oh, up and down the Monon, everything is fine, 'cause that rootin' tootin' Monon, she's a Hoosier line.
Yes, Monon is the Hoosier line. It's as much a part of the landscape and the tradition of Indiana as the old Oaken Bucket or the Wabash River. So naturally enough, when the railroad got to be 100 years old, Hoosiers by the countless thousands turned out to celebrate the event and to help speed the line into its second century. All up and down the Monon they gathered for a series of Hoosier homecomings and to welcome the Centennial Special which the Monon sent down the line.
Everything is fine, 'cause that rootin' tootin' Monon, she's a Hoosier line. Oh, up and down the Monon, everything is fine, 'cause that rootin' tootin' Monon, she's a Hoosier line. All aboard, all aboard, it's my Indiana home that I'm a-headin' for. Up and down the Monon, everything is fine, 'cause that rootin' tootin' Monon, she's a Hoosier line.
The Monon is one of the smaller of the Class A railroads. Yet because of its strategic location at the crossroads of America, it is an important link in the nation's network of rail lines. Historically, too, the Monon, Indiana. On past the rich valleys of the White, the Wabash, the Tippecanoe, up toward the level prairies bordering Lake Michigan. This railroad, forerunner of the modern Monon, made possible the first rapid movement of passengers and freight over this strategic route and became the lifeline of Indiana. The Monon opened up.
Is so rich, not with gold and silver treasure will be gone tomorrow. Indiana treasure store is a wealth of good old Hoosier lore. No one else can borrow. Memories that linger along the Wabash, happy hours and friendly hearts we've known. Indiana is so rich, in my heart she's carved a golden name. Hers alone, hers alone.
The railroad brought in the settlers to till the soil and make the land deliver up its golden harvest. The railroad brought in things the farmer needed and took out things the farmer had to sell. Indiana had vast stores of natural resources, and the Monon made this wealth available to the world. Indiana limestone, with which architects have fashioned some of the world's most beautiful buildings, is symbolic of the riches which this proud state has given to the world. Riches material, artistic, and spiritual.
Happy hours and friendly hearts we've known. Indiana is so rich, in in my heart she's carved a golden ear. Hers alone, hers alone.
The early Monon prospered with the building up of Indiana. Great industries sprung from the soil and generated a growing volume of traffic. But by and by, the traffic dwindled. We intend to make the Monon a guinea pig, said John W. Barriger, the new president. We intend to do everything possible to make the Monon a model railroad. Hoosiers applauded, but perhaps not many of them thought it could be done. The old Monon was a friendly streak of rust through the Indiana countryside. That was all. But more
Hoosier time, there never ever was a better time. Hoosier time, where every golden moment is a time for joy and laughter. Hoosier time is the best time of all.
There were rumors of fine new passenger trains on the way. Unable to procure new passenger equipment from standard suppliers without several years of delay, Monon purchased new or slightly used hospital cars from the United States Army, began to convert them for passenger service in its own shops at Lafayette. Monon craftsmen worked feverishly to have the first of the new trains ready to participate in the great Centennial celebration. And ready it was. But before Hoosiers got a look at the new train, they were serenaded with a show which was carried the length of Hoosier land on the old Centenarian.
There never ever was a better time. Hoosier time, where every golden moment is a time for joy and laughter. Hoosier time is the best time of all.
The Monon didn't have a train old enough to represent the standards of transportation 100 years ago, but the Baltimore and Ohio did, and with gracious generosity made it available to the Monon for its centennial pageantry. It was quite a show the old William Mason brought with it. Performers sung brand new songs about the towns the road runs through.
There are dozens of towns I could sing about, down where the Wabash flows. Little towns, friendly towns, towns every Hoosier knows. There are dozens of towns I could sing about, down where the full moon beams. I'll just close my eyes, take one by surprise. It's the town from my fondest dream. Oh, the moon is big and yellow when it shines on Monticello in the Hoosier summertime. Oh, the air is soft and mellow on the streets of Monticello in the Hoosier summertime. Oh, the moon is big and yellow when it shines on Monticello. Hoosier hearts are all in rhyme. Oh, the air is soft and mellow. There's a girl for every fellow in the summertime.
Big towns, little towns, towns that are friendly and homey. The Monon map is littered with them. Any American map is littered with them, of course. And if the Monon could, it would be mighty proud to run into any town where the heartbeat of America can be felt. But the Monon is a Hoosier, and, well, Hoosiers are mighty proud of Indiana.
Oh, the moon is big.
Down the show train went. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days it traveled, pausing a good many times each day to pay its respects to its good Hoosier neighbors. On the way, it passed by busy mills and factories, turning out products which are famous the world over and which the Monon helps to forward to all parts of the nation. The train passed by miles of prosperous farms, their fertile acres mantled with the lush green of the Hoosier summertime, and supporting fine herds of livestock destined for the great stockyards and packing plants at Indianapolis, Chicago, or Louisville. It was a richly varied landscape which unfolded before the performers and guests on the Centennial train as it made its way down toward the birthplace of the Monon at the southern end of the state. The performers didn't have much time to look at the scenery, and in fact it was all they could do to find time to eat. And that, as anyone who has ever traveled on the Monon can testify, is a tragedy, because those Monon meals are, well, the Monon waiters can tell you best about that, as they called the guests to dinner on the service train which accompanied the old William Mason.
Last call with a smile as we click off mile by mile on your favorite Hoosier line. Oh, Betty out there, so hearty and delicious Monon meal. Oh, so wonderful Monon, oh, those wonderful Monon meals. They are the very best meals on, the very best meals on wheels. All across the scriptic nation, there's the epicure sensation. All those wonderful Monon meals.
As the show train sped along, it skirted some of the famous play spots of Indiana. Ideal Beach on beautiful Schaefer Lake, recreation mecca for thousands of fun seekers from all over the Middle West. Brown County State Park, hailed by many as the scenic wonderland of the Central States, and a gathering place for hikers, picnickers, and sports lovers. Spring Mill Park with its enchanting old village, its ancient mill where corn is still ground into meal by the giant water wheel.
They're the kind that make you smack your lips, enjoy your trip, leave plenty of tips, those hearty and delicious.
French Lick Springs, one of the great spas of the entire world, whose famous curative waters are bottled and shipped to the ends of the earth.
The very best meals on, the very best meals on wheels. All across the great big nation, they're the epicures. Sensation. Oh, those wonderful Monon. M-O-N-O-N. Monon meals.
The Centennial train paused at many college towns, too. For Monon is known as the College Line and serves some of the best-known institutions of higher learning in America. Indiana University, Purdue, DePaul, Wabash, Butler, and West Baden.
Memories that linger along the wall, and happy hours and friendly hearts we've known. Indiana is so rich. In my heart she's carved a golden name, hers alone, hers alone.
Its Centennial trek took the Monon show train more than 300 miles down to the banks of the Ohio River at New Albany, across from Louisville. Here, 100 years ago, the railroad was born, and here they prepared a gigantic... There were events for young and old, but the accent was on youth, on the new century which was being ushered in. All kinds of races and other competitions were held. Contestants came from far and near. School bands from up and down the Monon participated. gigantic firework display was offered in the Monon's honor.
Hoosier time. We run this railroad right on Hoosier time. Hoosier time, Hoosier time. There never ever was a better time. Hoosier time, where every golden moment is a time for joy and laughter. Hoosier.
The final day of the celebration found nearly 100,000 people jamming the streets of New Albany to view the big parade and to greet the old and the new trains on their arrival. The sturdy old William Mason had negotiated the 300-mile trip in great style. Of course, it had to be helped along now and then by its accompanying diesel, but the old Mason made it home under its own power at last. Another old-timer, the Southern Railway's best friend of Charleston, replica of the first steam train ever to run in America, pulled up on an adjoining track, and official representatives of the city of Louisville and of the state of Kentucky climbed down in the full regalia of a bygone era. One of the most colorful events of the day was the presentation of the bells of the Monon, lovely representatives from towns along the line. After they were presented to the crowd, the Monon Melody Men serenaded them with a song reminiscent of the days long ago when bells of another era greeted the first Monon train to enter New Albany.
Oh, the bell on the Monon, was she redhead, blonde or brunette? Was she sweet Susie Bowman from down around Yeoman, or Sadie from West Lafayette? Oh, the bell on the Monon, was she Mrs. or Madam or Miss? When the harvest moon showed up, the bell on the Monon, whose lips was she waiting to kiss? She's the bell on the diesel line's Monon. She's the pride of the Indiana line. She's got ultra-stream lining, a costume that's confining, the very latest thing in new design. She's the belle of the diesel line Monon. She is sleek and she's lovely and divine. She's the sort of thing that's shown on the up-and-coming Monon. She's the belle of the Hoosier line. Oh, up and down.
The climactic moment had arrived. The new streamlined Hoosier was on hand to complete the dramatic pageantry of a century of railroad development. A host of business and civic leaders came down on the train to join the celebrants in the final hours of the Centennial Jubilee. Governor Ralph F. Gates of Indiana brought the state's official greeting to this birthplace of the Monon. From the railway station, the crowds moved downtown to join other waiting thousands and to view the huge civic parade which had been prepared. Led by crack contingents of the United States Army, the parade moved through the streets of New Albany for nearly 3 hours, cheered on by the multitude. This was a glorious climax indeed to a glorious series of Hoosier homecomings.
and down the Monon, everything is fine. That rootin' tootin' Monon, she's a Hoosier line. Oh, up and down the Monon, everything is fine. 'Cause that rootin' tootin' Monon, she's a Hoosier line. All aboard, all aboard, it's by Indiana home that I'm a-headin' for. Up and down the Monon, everything is fine. 'Cause that rootin' tootin' Monon, she's a Hoosier line.
Thus did all Indiana join hands to celebrate the 100th birthday of her pioneer railroad. The Hoosier beyond the borders of its native state. The Monon is a Hoosier, yes, and proud of it. But the Monon is something more. It is a symbol of progressive railroad management. Management which knows that the railways are and will continue to be the lifeline of the nation. The great, a guinea pig, President Berger keeps calling it, a life-sized laboratory experiment in throwing out the old and bringing in the new. The Monon is streamlining railroad operating methods and striving for a whole new pattern of up-to-the-minute service for shippers and travelers. Whatever is best for the public, the Monon will try to do, believing sincerely that this attitude of public service will reflect itself in the traffic and the revenues of the road. Service doesn't cost, it pays. That is the belief of the modern Monon as it begins its second century of service at the crossroads of America.
Oh, up and down the Monon, everything is fine. 'Cause that rootin' tootin' Monon, she's a Hoosier line. All aboard, it's by Indiana home that I'm a-headin' for. Up and down the Monon, everything is fine. 'Cause that rootin' tootin' Monon, she's a Hoosier